Right, what is up, you guys? Welcome back. If today's video is a little bit loud, it's because I'm out, and I thought because of the weather it would be actually pretty quiet out here. Turns out no, even in the weather being like it is, people are still out here. It is a Tuesday daytime, just for reference, and I thought this would be super quiet. Unfortunately, there's a load of people out here. You can't see them because I'm trying to walk away and in a kind of different path so I don't go too near them. But also, it's kind of hot, humid. It's been raining. It was just raining just now. I'm hoping. I left my bike somewhere over here behind me. It's not actually locked, so fingers crossed that doesn't get impinged. It shouldn't do, I don't think. Anywho, today's video, if you hadn't already seen by the title, we are talking about something pretty sensitive, something that people are always talking about in the news at the minute, if it hasn't been spoilt by the American protests. Not spoiled, but the attention taken off it is kind of a better way of saying it. If we're going anywhere dark as well, it's got a little bit dark when we've gone underneath, that's okay. But anyway, yeah, so talking about Hong Kong, and Hong Kong is just going to be, today's video is going to be, it may or may not anger or split the opinion from people. I could potentially anger people on both sides of this argument, because I have kind of a mixed opinion. And like I always say, guys, I am not 100% right 100% of the time. People are wrong. People get facts wrong. People have opinions, which may or may not be correct. So I am always open to hearing what you guys think. If there's something I've said which is wrong, then essentially it's okay. Just let me know. I'm open and accepting of the fact that I won't always be correct all of the time. Anyway, we've made it in a circle around there. Now we're gonna go back out here. I'm gonna try and dodge these guys because, yeah, I don't want to get the crappy shots in. This is also, you know where we are. You know where we are today, guys. My favorite place, the wetlands. Anyway, let's not mince our words. Let's get into the Hong Kong subject. Now, Hong Kong, I kind of have, yeah, like I said, opinions which could, it could annoy people on both sides, really. So after living here 7 years, I kind of understand. Oh, just a second, guys. Just have a little look at this. I don't know how well this will come out in the video, but you see this behind me? This is a massive field full of lilies. It looks awesome. I'm just going to spin back around again. Here we go, look. And they're everywhere, absolutely everywhere, look. So let's go for a little walk down here, and amongst all these lilies, there's like a little path. This is a part of the park that I don't usually come to. So yeah, this is the older side of the park. This is where there was originally a park here before, and they've just expanded it to the entire wetlands. This was a much smaller area. So you can hear there's frogs as well. It seems to be that season for frogs. I'm looking around now and seeing a lot of people, so I'm hoping that, ooh, look at that. There are people taking some kind of wedding pictures, maybe. There's a lot of people in traditional outfits over there. Anyway, sorry, I'm digressing a hell of a lot. So Hong Kong, right. Hong Kong for me has always been part of China. Now, I know it was ruled by British people. As I was saying, I am a UK citizen. So for me, Hong Kong has always been one of my favorite cities in the whole world. And that is because it has everything about China that I love, but it also has this kind of familiarity from being back home in the UK. Like the subway stations always seem very much just like they do in London. It's got a very good, homely, international UK vibe, but it's China. Now, I totally agree. Hong Kong has always been China. It was just kind of taken by the British a long time ago, and we said after 156 years, we would give it back. And we did. Or was it 100 years? I'm not sure. But it was ruled for 100. Hong Kong has been ruled by the British for 156 years. I think we're going to turn round now because that doesn't look like we can really go that way. Well, not go that way very well. Also, there's a weird looking man over there. But yeah, anyway, anyway, the British, we ruled Hong Kong for 156 years. And as that is, I can understand why people now, and why there have been protests, and why it's been getting a bit unstable, because in my opinion, if you've been ruled by a completely different kind of system and government system for 156 years, you've got to think all the people now that are being born or have been born or are living in Hong Kong that are Hong Kongese people, they've never lived the same as in the mainland. They've never been ruled the same as in the mainland. And if I was a Hong Konger, I would also be kind of, I'd be kind of worried about this, what's going to happen when it finally reverts back to being part of mainland China. I could see that being a bone of contention. I could see why people might be a little bit concerned. I could also see, on the other side of this coin, I can see that with this new security law, I don't see why people are getting that much of getting all their hair off about it, essentially. Because in my opinion, like, if you look at other countries in the world, America, the UK, a lot of European countries, the security laws that they have, like security laws similar to this one, there's like 5, maybe 8 different security laws. If this is too loud now, that's because they're playing obnoxiously loud Chinese music in the park. But yeah, security laws, I think, personally, are there to protect the country. And I know people will say that no, actually it's to try and get the control back over Hong Kong. But don't you think that after all these protests, if there's people being burnt and people being beaten and there's a lot of violence going on in these protests, I don't personally think that that's a good way to actually protest. I think that's a very bad way to protest. I think it doesn't get your point across, because you're basically protesting against being oppressed by trying to smash and burn things. And you're just destroying this lovely infrastructure and lovely city. And while you could argue sometimes you need to do something extreme to make a point, I don't think it does make your point very well when you resort to setting people on fire and beating people. Also, in another sense, I kind of see that it is being misrepresented in the news here, because there are lots of stuff which is just not happening, it is happening, but it's not happening quite as they say it is. Right, so a while back, I went to Hong Kong. I had to go to Hong Kong to get a work visa. I'd got caught in a situation where I needed to renew my visa and renew my visa fast. So I switched over temporarily while I was changed in between jobs, onto a family visa, right? So family visa, you can't work. So I needed to change it back, as I'd been going back to work again. So I went to Hong Kong, and when I posted on my on social media, both here in China and in like Facebook and all the Western ones, people were quite concerned. They said, "Oh, you be careful. I'm really scared for your safety." And I was like, well, it's kind of, yeah, this is just when the protests were all kind of kicking off. And I was kind of like, yeah, I mean, it could get kind of dicey, right? But when I got to Hong Kong, and I stayed in, I think it's the Emperor Hotel, I think it's called, Emperor Hotel. And the Emperor Hotel was like right in the middle of where all those people were protesting. There was nothing. I was there for a whole week, and there was absolutely no protest, like absolutely none. Everything just looked and was as if there had never ever been any protests, and there never was any protests. Now, there definitely was protests. You can't fake stuff like those 2 million people that turned out into the street there. But I think in another sense, the mainstream media, especially the Western mainstream media, has been portraying it as it's like constantly like Beirut, where people are being shot at, and it's like constant battle for like safety and all this kind of stuff. And it just simply isn't. Like, I'd say there 98% of the time, there are not mass protests in Hong Kong at all. And when they do have these incidents, I think it is being it's almost being cherry picked. I wouldn't say, I don't know, it's kind of weird, because there's always people there to film it and to have seen it. But I think it doesn't happen quite as often as people would like to think it does. It's not like a 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, everywhere is like a danger to go out. Essentially, these protests are happening like in little pockets here and there all over Hong Kong. And I think it's happening less and less now, because I was actually quite surprised when I got there to see absolutely no evidence of it. I didn't see any burnt or smashed places. Now, that's not to say that there wasn't these protests, because there obviously was. We've all seen the footage on the internet, but I think it's important to also remember that the mainstream media does kind of, we're going past a little loudspeaker there. The mainstream media is kind of just cherry picking and showing and sensationalizing stuff to make it seem that it is something it isn't. So I guess basically that's about it, guys. In conclusion, I think that the new security law, or whatever it's called, however you want to put it, is a good thing, because basically all it is doing is saying that terrorism and rioting and setting people on fire is it's illegal, which, I mean, you would have thought that would be pretty much obvious, wouldn't you, that something like that would be illegal. But yeah, and I think it's kind of hypocritical as well that essentially the other countries can have all these security laws, but as soon as China wants just one, for one of its places, its cities, where there are currently a lot of things and a lot of people which are breaking that law, then I think it's an okay thing to have. It keeps people safe, it keeps people happy, and you know, I think in the long run it will be a good thing. I think it's also important to remember that, like I said, Hong Kong has had a rule for that many years that isn't from the mainland Chinese government. That I think it's only natural for people to have these fears, and to be asked to live in a completely different kind of life than what they've been experiencing up until now is going to cause a fair amount of problems. Imagine, for example, if you were a Christian and you lived in a Christian country, and then all of a sudden one day you were told that the government was changing and they were going to be a completely different religion, but you had to change as well. You weren't given the choice. You had to be now abide by a completely different set of religious beliefs. And I think it's kind of similar to that-ish. I'm not a religion guy, and I guess there's going to be a lot of people hating me saying that, but I think that essentially Hong Kongese people are going to experience a fair amount of changes, and I really hope that when it goes back over and it changes back into being part of mainland China, that the government will keep all of the things which make Hong Kong special still there. I mean, the laws are going to change and things will change, but that's inevitable. But it has to be. It's inevitable. It's something that always was going to happen and always has to happen. It is part of China after all. But yeah, I guess only time will tell. Anyway, guys, that is just my thoughts on this situation. I'm going to get back under and out of the shelter because it's looking awfully like it's going to rain again. Hit me up in the comments. What do you guys think about Hong Kong? Do you think this new security law is a good thing? Do you think that, can you understand? Can you empathize with Hong Kongese people and their fears and their kind of feelings in this kind of time of change? And what do you think on the whole situation? What do you think on the protests? Are you a Hong Kongese person? Anyway, guys, I get this one in might be a little bit of a hot topic, but anyway, there we go. Catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.